Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Lawrence, and today I'm going to show you how to create a full stack web application using NextJS, React, and successfully deploy it to Vercel in hopefully less than 20 minutes. This is something I've done with one of my clients, and I am recording this for her as well as for future clients. And if you're watching this, I'm recording this for you. So let me first go ahead. I'm going to share my screen and talk through some prerequisites. Okay. So what you see here is Visual Studio's code. And before we start today, there are some prerequisites. For us to be able to do this, you're going to need a GitHub account. You can go to github.com for that. It's free. And if you like to develop software, it's something that is kind of necessary. There's alternatives, but I suggest GitHub. You'll also need a Vercel account that will allow us to do the deployment. Now, Vercel integrates directly with GitHub, and you can actually sign up to Vercel with your GitHub account. Next thing you'll need is Microsoft Visual Studio Code for your IDE. I really like Visual Studio Code. It makes JavaScript development really easy, and I highly recommend it. Third thing you'll need is Node and NPM on your local machine, whatever you're using. I'm currently using a MacBook. And then finally, you'll need to download Git and make sure that's configured so that you can commit your code to your GitHub account, which we will get into in a minute. So the first thing you'll do is open up, after you've gone through the prerequisites, you're going to open up your Microsoft Visual Studio Code, as you can see here. First thing you'll want to do is go to Terminal and type in New Terminal. Okay, so when you do this, you'll see that it'll go to your root directory, wherever that is. I have a directory called code, and I will use this directory to start. So go to a directory that you'll remember. And then what we can do is we can go to nextjs.org. And the first thing we're going to do is literally just create a full stack web application. So when you come to nextjs.org, you'll see this screen or something like it, depending on how long ago or any updates they've made over time. You'll copy this down here, go back to your terminal, simply paste that into the terminal window. Now you can give it a project name. We'll call this create next.js. Okay. All lowercase, create next.js app. You can use TypeScript or not. If you decide not to use TypeScript, you can use JavaScript. And to change between no and yes, simply use your arrow keys on your keyboard. So I'll just go ahead with the TypeScript. ESLint, I would recommend just using ESLint. This will help make sure that your code is formatted correctly. It's a static code analysis tool. Tailwind CSS. So in today's session, we are going to install Tailwind. Luckily for us, Next installs it automatically. I will also be installing Daisy UI today because I really like Daisy UI and I think it makes web app development easier. So we will do that. For this, I'm just going to go with the default and not use the source directory. App router, will go with the recommended and say yes. And would you like to customize the default? I'll say no. Okay. So now what it's doing is it's going through the process of creating a straightforward application for us. Okay. Success. Next thing we want to do is we want to open up that application. So if you have opened up Visual Studio Code for the first time, you'll see a welcome screen here, and you can open up a folder. You can also open up a folder by going up to File at the top of your screen and saying Open Folder. So we just created this Create Next.js app happen to be in the same location as that code directory. So just go ahead and highlight that and click on open. Do you want to save the changes? Yes, I'll save those changes. Okay, now this is important. Do you trust the authors of the files in this folder? Well, you're the author, so you should trust the authors. So simply say, yes, I trust the authors. Okay, so there you have it. All of the code here has been created by NextJS for us, which is pretty fantastic. We will now close the welcome screen, and we're going to go back to terminal again and hit new terminal so that we have a terminal down here. You'll notice that it opened the terminal in the directory that we need it to. If you go ahead and open up package.json, you can see that the next creation tool has automatically set it up so that we can run these scripts here. So what we're going to do is, just to make sure everything is working, we're going to run dev. And to do that, at least on a MacBook, you type npm run dev, because we're running the script dev. And you can see down here in the terminal, it's compiling, it's creating. This may take a minute or two, depending on how fast your device is. This is a fairly new MacBook Air with an M2 chip, so it shouldn't take too long. In fact, it looks like it's already there. Next thing you can do is just follow the link, localhost 3000, and give it a minute or two. And there you go. So you can see that this is the initial page.typescript that Next.js has created for us. And it is good to take a note about this, because what I'm showing you today is just getting the infrastructure in place. I'm not going to be developing anything at all in React. Literally, this is just a quick demonstration on how you can create an app and then deploy it, get it committed to GitHub, and then deploy it to Vercel so that you can have that feedback loop relatively quickly. But I would highly suggest, if you're not familiar with Next or you're not familiar with React, check out the documentation. Go check out the learning section of Next.js. There's a lot in here. It'll describe and give you a good start to learning about how to use Next and even React as well. You can see there's getting started with Next.js, create your first Next.js app. Well, we're doing that today, but this will help you get a better understanding of the fundamentals, which of course is suggested. Okay, so we have the Next app up and running. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, it mentioned getting started by editing app.page.tsx. So what we'll do is we're going to go to page. So it's under app, it's under page, and you can see there's a lot here. This is what you just saw. This is all of the code to display what we have just seen. So to start, I'm going to dumb it down and make it as easy as possible, and I'm going to delete lines 7 all the way down to the bottom here to line 109. What that will give me is just a div here, and basically what this will now show, if I save this, Control S, Command S, and go back, it is now a blank screen. So that seemed to work. So why don't we just put H1 and say hello world. Okay. Okay, so it says hello world there. Great, fantastic. All right, so that seems to be working. You'll notice here the class names, there's a lot of stuff in here. Well, this is all Tailwind. And I would suggest getting familiar with Tailwind, because it's a really easy way to adjust and modify your UIs when you're using Next.js. In fact, it's useful for almost any JavaScript framework. Most of the time I'm using Nuxt.js on Vue, and I also use Tailwind for my development because it's easy. Okay, so that's that. So we've got that created. Next step is we're going to go ahead and install Daisy UI. Now this is not a required step, And I'm just going to kill this. Okay. Command C stops that. Okay. I'm going to install Daisy UI. It's not required, but I really like Daisy UI because it adds a little bit more to Tailwind, and it makes it a little bit easier. It provides some pre-designed things such as themes, which I think is very useful. So first thing you'll do here is you can see npm I install dev Daisy UI is how to get started. So you simply copy that, copied, go back here to your terminal and paste that in, run, and give it a minute or two, and it looks like that installed Daisy UI. So to confirm that's installed, you can go back to your package and you'll now notice that Daisy UI is installed under your dev dependencies. Okay, fantastic. The next step is we need to configure Daisy UI, and we'll do this rather quickly. So configuring, you'll need to make sure Daisy UI is added to your Tailwind configuration. And luckily, because Next created this for us, it's a pretty simple step to go in and add this plugin because the tailwind.config.js already exists. So you'll go down, you'll just highlight that, copy that, go back, find Tailwind config. It's right here. You'll see there's plugins. There's nothing in there right now. So just paste that in there. Okay, that looks good. So that if you do that, that will install Daisy for you. Now, the next thing I like to do is just get themes up and running because, like I said, I really like themes, and I think it's a very useful part of what Daisy can provide. And you can see that they have all these built-in themes here. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll go and highlight this, copy this. Again, this is underneath the tailwind.config.js. So let's go back here, tailwind.config.js, just copy that in here. And the way that themes work is it'll automatically load this first theme as your default theme. In this case, it's the light. And then dark, if your website is set up or if your device is set up in dark mode, it'll automatically, because it's smart, will load the dark version of the Daisy UI theme, which is really cool. Okay, so we'll just stop there for a minute. Let's see if this works. So the best way to see if it works is to go back to our page and let's put something in there that will utilize the Daisy UI themes. And one thing that'll do that is a button. So we'll add a button. So go back here, go to button. Here's button code. What we want is a button with brand colors, because you can see depending on your theme, it's going to provide different colors. So what we'll do is we'll look at the HTML. So primary color, we'll just copy that, go back over here, put that in there. You'll notice this is not in standard with the way React and Next work. So just change that to class name. Hit save, and then the next thing we'll do is since we stopped it, we need to go ahead and start up the server again. So npm run dev, hit enter. Okay, looks like we're good to go. Let's open that up. And you can see there's a button there. And the button is blue, which should correspond to the theme of light. Just to test this, why don't we go back to Tailwind and just make the cupcake theme the default theme. And we can just delete this. Save that, and let's see if it automatically. And you'll notice that it actually did change it on the fly there. So we now see that Hello World is working, buttons working. Now, like I mentioned, if you want to know what any of going back to page TXX is, if you want to know what any of this is, what you really need to do is go ahead and navigate on over to tailwind.css in the docs. And this will give you an idea of what that is. And you can see that we accidentally deleted some classes there. But that's what you can do. Now, one quick note, the way that Next works, and I'm not going to go into the details, you really need to look at the documentation for this, but just to highlight this layout feature here, which is kind of cool. Layout will be loaded for every page underneath the directory here, app. So if you have page.tsx or page 2 or page 3 or page 4, whatever it is, it will always load with layout. And the same type of thing works. So if you created another directory underneath app, and then put page 1, page 2 with a layout, that same format will work there. But just to show you how this works, you can see the title says create next app and generated by create next app. Well, look, my title here is create next app. And if you do a quick view page source, you can see that there is meta description in here, right here, generated by create next app. You can just double check that this will actually change. So what we'll do is we'll say hello world next JS, and we'll say generated by create next step. Hello world. Okay, save that. You can see it's been updated, and you'll notice the title has changed. And if we just reload the source here, it says hello world. So that is actually working the way it's supposed to. Okay, so what have we done so far? We've generated the application. We have it installed Daisy UI, and it's up and running now. I mean, basically, you want to change anything, you want to modify anything, you can do it, and then you can see it on your local device. Now, like I mentioned, what we really want to do here is we want to upload this to GitHub, and then we want to deploy it in Vercel. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Now, if you look at the left navigation here, source control, it's typically the third one down in Visual Studio Code with these 3 dots. You'll click on this, and this currently isn't connected to anything, but I do have GitHub set up. You will want to make sure that once you install Git, you also configure Git correctly. So you'll go through that process, just check out the website and how to do that. And all you need to do here really is say initial commit. And we will stage everything. It's just a button here, say stage all, hit commit. Now you can see there's a message here. This isn't published anywhere yet, but I'm already connected to my GitHub account. So if I go ahead and hit publish branch, it'll ask me where I want to publish it to. And for now, I will just make it a public repository so you can also see the code if you'd like, and simply publish to GitHub public repository. And you can see down here, it's uploading files, and it says successfully published. Fantastic. Now I can just simply go open on GitHub, and there it is, initial commit from create next app. It's all there. Very cool. So what have we done? We created a next application. We made some modifications. We installed Daisy UI. Now we've committed it to our GitHub account. Pretty straightforward, right? And it's only been 20 minutes. Next step is to deploy in Vercel, which should literally take us a couple minutes to do. So if you've already set up your account in Vercel and you've logged in with your GitHub account, the nice part about doing that is the configuration and the connection between your GitHub account and Vercel is already done. So you simply need to go to add new on your dashboard. And if you have nothing on here, you'll see nothing here, and it'll say it create new project or something like that. I currently use Vercel for my own website, briandlawrence.com. And the nice thing about Vercel for hobby type things like that, like a personal website that isn't being used for business, but only for your personal site, it's free. If you want, you can also set up a business account, and I do have a business account set up as well with some other projects that I have out there. But yeah, use the hobby account as long as you're not using it for business. You can use it for free. Okay, so hit add new. Add new project. We're going to import it from our Git repository, and it shows all of the repositories connected to your account. And like I said, because you have logged in using your GitHub account, it's going to automatically show that. And if you want to add other connections, other repositories, you can also go ahead and and just simply do that through here. So create NextJS app. There it is. We're going to hit import. We'll call it create NextJS app. And basically just take everything that's set up by default and hit deploy. So you can see that it's building. And if you want to see the build logs as it goes through, you can open it up like I've done. And it shows in real time. All right, looks like that was a success. Daisy UI, there's our Daisy, very nice. Okay, just doing some last minute checks. Up to 2 seconds so far. Okay. All right, so it's done, almost done building. And there you go. It has already built and deployed automatically for you. Now I can continue to do the dashboard, and I can see that they've deployed using this domain. And the cool thing about Vercel is you can also add your own domain and then set it so that whenever you deploy to your main branch, it'll automatically build and deploy, which is pretty fantastic. If you click on that, create NextJS app, eta.vercel is what they gave it. And this is now accessible by anybody on the internet. You could try it right now if you'd like. And that's it. So again, what did we do today? We created a new Next.js full stack web application in less than in about 20 minutes. And we installed Daisy UI with a theme, and then we added it to our GitHub account, and then we've deployed it. Pretty straightforward. That's it today. In a future video, I'm going to show how to connect this deployment that we just did to MongoDB. MongoDB is a great way if you want to do anything like save data with your web application. MongoDB will let you have a free account, assuming there's not a lot of traffic and you're really just doing this as a hobby or doing it to practice or doing it as a portfolio to get a position as a software engineer. It's a really good way to go because you can basically develop a pretty straightforward web application. Have it all deployed, have access to an online database, all for free. It's amazing what's available to us today. So if you've liked this, feel free to subscribe and look for some more videos. I also plan on creating a similar video using Nuxt because I personally prefer Vue for most of my development. But that's it. Thanks so much.